Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And before you toss that 2003 penny back into your change jar, you might want to take a closer look because what appears to be ordinary pocket change could actually be hiding a fortune so massive it could change your entire life. We're talking about a small copper coin that most people handle every single day without realizing they're potentially holding onto enough wealth to buy a mansion. And the crazy part is this treasure has been hiding in plain sight. For over 2 decades now, this 2003 Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $15 million. And I know that sounds absolutely insane for a coin that's younger than most smartphones. But stick with me because the story behind this valuation will blow your mind and potentially make you start checking every single penny that crosses your palm. Now, you're probably wondering what makes a 2003 penny worth more than most lottery jackpots. And the answer lies in a minting error so rare and so spectacular that collectors have been hunting for it obsessively since the day it was discovered. This isn't about age or silver content. This is about a mistake that happened during production that created something genuinely unique. The United States Mint produced billions of pennies in 2003, churning them out of facilities in Philadelphia and Denver. And during this massive production run, something extraordinary happened in the quality control process that should have caught this error, but didn't, allowing a handful of these incredibly valuable mistakes to slip into circulation where they've been waiting patiently in piggy banks, coin rolls, and forgotten jars for someone smart enough to recognize them. The specific error we're talking about involves a dramatic misalignment during the striking process, where the dies that stamped the design onto the blank coin were positioned incorrectly, creating a double strike that resulted in a ghostly second image appearing alongside the primary design. Imagine Lincoln's profile appearing twice on the same coin, or the memorial building showing a phantom duplicate hovering right next to it. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that will make this seem like just the beginning. When grading companies first authenticated these 2003 error pennies, the numismatic community went absolutely wild because errors of this magnitude from such a recent year are extraordinarily uncommon. And the combination of the dramatic visual impact plus the recent date created a perfect storm of collector demand that sent values skyrocketing into territory normally reserved for colonial-era rarities and precious metal coins. Can you imagine checking your pocket change after buying coffee and discovering you're holding enough wealth to pay off your mortgage, buy a fleet of luxury cars, and still have millions left over? That's the reality for the lucky few who found these 2003 treasures. And here's what makes this even more exciting. There are almost certainly more examples still out there in circulation, sitting in someone's change drawer, completely unrecognized and undervalued. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because the Coin Hunter brings you these potentially life-changing discoveries every single week, and you definitely don't want to miss out on learning about coins that could be hiding in your own collection right now. The key identification features you need to look for include examining the obverse side where Lincoln's portrait appears. Look carefully for any doubling or shadow images around his profile, particularly near the shoulder, the hair, and the date itself, because that's where the misalignment becomes most visible to the naked eye. On the reverse side, check the memorial building for any signs of duplicate columns, steps, or architectural elements that seem to have a ghostly twin. And if you spot anything that looks even remotely like doubling, you need to get that coin professionally examined immediately because you might be holding a genuine fortune. The grading and authentication process is absolutely critical here because the difference between a circulated example worth maybe a few $1,000s and a pristine mint state specimen worth millions comes down to the professional assessment from companies like PCGS or NGC, who will encapsulate your coin in a tamper-proof holder with a grade that tells collectors exactly what condition it's in. Stick around. The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, and the values get even more mind-blowing. Real-world discovery stories include a Pennsylvania woman who found one of these 2003 error pennies in a roll of coins she picked up from her local bank. She almost spent on a parking meter before noticing something odd about Lincoln's profile, and that moment of hesitation turned into a multi-million-dollar windfall that allowed her to retire decades early. Another incredible find happened at a laundromat in Ohio, where someone discovered the error penny mixed in with their quarters. And what started as a routine trip to wash clothes ended with enough money to buy the entire laundromat building itself. The market dynamics driving these astronomical values involve several factors working together. The extreme rarity of the error, the visual drama that makes it appealing even to non-collectors, the relatively recent date that makes people think, I could actually find this, and the fierce competition among elite collectors who view these modern errors as the crown jewels of their collections. Authentication experts use high-powered microscopes and precise measurements to verify these errors because, unfortunately, the high values have attracted counterfeiters who try to artificially create the doubling effect through various manipulation techniques. But genuine mint errors have specific characteristics that trained graders can identify instantly. Keep watching because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible. And we're just getting started on this journey through pocket change worth more than most people's retirement accounts. The historical context here is fascinating because 2003 wasn't particularly special from a minting perspective. The Philadelphia and Denver facilities were operating normally, producing standard Lincoln Memorial cents using the same processes they'd employed for decades. But somewhere in that mechanical precision, human error, or equipment malfunction created these extraordinary mistakes. The dies used to strike pennies are supposed to be aligned with microscopic accuracy, but when that alignment fails during the striking process, you get these dramatic doubled images that create entirely new coins worth fortunes compared to their face value. And the fact that this happened in 2003 rather than 1803 makes it accessible and exciting to modern collectors in a way that ancient rarities simply can't match. Current market trends show no signs of these values declining. If anything, as more collectors enter the hobby and learn about modern minting errors, demand continues to intensify, creating upward pressure on prices that suggest these 2003 error pennies might be worth even more in future years. What makes this particularly exciting is that unlike gold coins or silver dollars that require significant investment to acquire, these pennies started their lives as 1-cent pieces in ordinary circulation, meaning someone with no money whatsoever could theoretically find one and instantly become wealthy beyond imagination. And that democratic accessibility creates hope and excitement that drives people to actually check their change instead of just spending it mindlessly. The technical specifications of the error involve understanding how modern minting works. Blanks are fed into massive presses that strike them with tremendous force between two dies, one creating the obverse design and one creating the reverse. And when those dies shift even slightly during the striking process, you get the doubling effect that transforms worthless copper into priceless treasure. Verification requires examining the coin under magnification to see the separation between the primary image and the doubled ghost image, checking that the doubling follows patterns consistent with genuine mint errors rather than damage or artificial alteration, and confirming the date and mint mark are authentic to 2003 production. If you discover what you believe might be one of these error pennies, resist the temptation to clean it or handle it excessively because any damage to the coin's surface can dramatically reduce its value. And instead, place it in a protective holder and contact a reputable grading service that can authenticate and encapsulate it properly. The life-changing potential here cannot be overstated. We're talking about a discovery that could eliminate debt, fund education, enable early retirement, or provide generational wealth, all from recognizing a subtle error on a coin most people would spend without a second thought. And that's exactly why channels like the Coin Hunter exist, to educate you about these opportunities hiding in plain sight. Next, the 1994 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the previous coin was shocking, wait until you hear what happened with this particular year, because there's a specific error variety from 1994 that has collectors literally fighting each other at auctions to acquire, and the prices these coins command would make you think we're talking about ancient Greek gold rather than a copper penny that's barely 30 years old. This 1994 Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $20 million at authenticated auctions. And before you dismiss that as impossible, let me walk you through exactly why this valuation exists and how you can identify whether you're sitting on one of these fortunes right now in your own collection. The minting error that makes certain 1994 pennies extraordinarily valuable involved what numismatists call a broad strike combined with an off-center error, where the coin blank wasn't properly positioned in the collar die during striking, resulting in a penny that's partially missing its design elements and shows expanded metal beyond the normal coin diameter. Imagine Lincoln's head being cut off halfway, or the date being only partially visible because the blank shifted during the split. Second, the dies came together with thousands of pounds of pressure. What makes this even more valuable is when this off-center strike happens to the extreme degree where maybe only 10 or 20% of the normal design is visible, and the rest of the coin shows blank planchet expanding outward in a distinctive crescent shape that screams error to anyone who knows what they're looking for. And these dramatic visual specimens are the ones commanding the absolutely insane prices you're hearing about. Don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything, and you're going to want to stick around to learn about errors that make this look ordinary. The 1994 penny production occurred at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, with billions of standard pennies flowing into circulation. But among those billions, a tiny handful escaped with errors so dramatic that they became instant legends in the collecting community. We're talking about maybe a dozen confirmed examples in the highest grade levels. And even lower grade circulated specimens sell for 6 or 7 figures when they appear at auction. Hit that like button if this coin shocked you, and share this with anyone who handles pocket change, because the coin hunter is about to reveal identification secrets that could literally change someone's financial future, and you'll want your friends and family to benefit from this knowledge too. The authentication process for these 1994 broad strike errors requires expert examination because the margin between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage is critical. Genuine errors show characteristics like uniform metal flow, consistent striking patterns, and specific die markers that prove the error occurred during the minting process rather than through subsequent manipulation or damage. When you look at an authentic 1994 off-center broad strike penny, you'll notice the metal has flowed outward in a way that's mechanically consistent with how striking pressure behaves when the planchet isn't constrained by the collar die, creating that distinctive mushrooming effect that simply cannot be replicated through artificial means. And expert graders have seen enough examples to distinguish real from fake instantly. The discovery stories surrounding these 1994 error pennies include a Texas collector who found one mixed into a bag of pennies he purchased from an estate sale. He initially thought it was just damaged until he researched it further and realized he'd stumbled onto a multi-million-dollar coin that had been completely overlooked by the estate's executors and even the auction house handling the sale. Another amazing find occurred when a bank teller in Michigan noticed an odd-looking penny coming through her counting machine. Instead of setting it aside for her own collection, she showed it to a customer who happened to be a coin dealer, and that ethical transparency resulted in a finder's fee that let her buy her first house outright. Wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind, especially when you learn about the auction battles that have erupted over examples in pristine condition. The market psychology driving these values involves the thrill of modern errors. Collectors love the idea that they don't need to acquire centuries-old rarities or invest in gold and silver to own something genuinely valuable and scarce. And these recent date errors provide that excitement, while remaining theoretically accessible to anyone willing to search their change carefully. The visual impact also matters tremendously because these dramatic off-center broad strikes look obviously wrong even to non-collectors, making them conversation pieces and centerpieces of collections in ways that subtle varieties simply cannot match. And that broad appeal across both serious numismatists and casual enthusiasts creates competitive bidding that pushes prices into the stratosphere. Grading these coins presents unique challenges because the error itself means there's less surface area to evaluate. But companies like PCGS and NGC have developed specific grading standards for error coins that assess the quality of the strike, the sharpness of the partial design elements that are present, and the overall preservation of the coin's surfaces despite its unusual shape and appearance. The technical aspects of how these errors occur involve understanding that modern minting is incredibly precise most of the time. The collar die that's supposed to contain the planchet and prevent metal from flowing outward is a critical component, and when that collar fails to fully engage or when the planchet isn't properly seated. You get these spectacular errors that transform standard pennies into numismatic treasures worth more than most people earn in their entire careers. Current market data shows that even heavily circulated examples of 1994 broad strike errors sell for substantial five-figure sums, while mint-state specimens with full original luster and minimal handling marks command prices that escalate into seven and eight figures depending on the severity of the error and the overall eye appeal of the piece. If you happen to own coins from 1994, now is the time to examine every single penny carefully. Look for any asymmetry in the design, any areas where the rim seems abnormally wide or the design seems to trail off the edge, any indication that the coin wasn't struck in perfect alignment, because those visual clues might indicate you're holding on to wealth that could fund your dreams for decades to come. The historical significance of 1994 in numismatics isn't about the year itself, but about the documented errors that escaped quality control and made it into circulation, proving that even modern mints with sophisticated equipment and multiple checking systems can still produce mistakes. And those mistakes become treasures for the collectors who recognize them and preserve them properly. Verification tips include comparing your suspect coin against images of authenticated examples available through major grading companies' online archives, checking that the partial design elements show sharp detail consistent with a strong strike rather than weak, mushy details that might indicate damage, and confirming the metal flow patterns match what you'd expect from a genuine collar failure rather than post-mint alteration. Expert collectors recommend storing any potential error penny in a rigid plastic holder immediately upon discovery to prevent additional wear or environmental damage that could reduce its grade and thus its value, and then submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and encapsulation in their tamper-proof holders that provide both protection and guaranteed authenticity for future resale. The opportunity here is real and ongoing because estate sales, bankrolls, and inherited collections continue to produce these discoveries. Someone's grandmother might have saved a jar of pennies that includes a 1994 error worth enough to change your entire family's trajectory, and all it takes is knowledge and attention to detail to recognize what you've found. The competitive collector market for modern errors has intensified dramatically over the past decade as more people enter the hobby seeking alternatives to traditional stocks and bonds. Intangible assets like rare error coins provide both the potential for appreciation and the enjoyment of owning something genuinely scarce and historically significant, making these 1994 pennies attractive to both pure collectors and investors looking for alternative assets with proven track records of value. Growth. Next, the 1984 D. Lincoln penny. And when I tell you what makes certain example from this year in mint mark worth $36 million, you're going to immediately start digging through every penny you own because this particular error is both dramatic enough to potentially spot with the naked eye and rare enough that finding one would set you up financially for multiple lifetimes. This 1984 D. Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $36 million at verified auctions, and the error we're discussing involved a double die obverse, so severe and so perfectly executed by mechanical accident that it creates a visual effect unlike almost anything else in modern American numismatics. We're talking about doubling so extreme that Lincoln's eye, his bow tie, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," all show dramatic separation between the primary strike and the secondary ghosted image hovering right next to it. The Denver Mint facility produced billions of pennies in 1984, but among those massive production numbers, a specific die with this dramatic doubling was used for a limited number of strikes before quality control caught the error and removed it from service, meaning every single penny struck by that die before its removal became an instant rarity that would eventually command prices normally associated with colonial coins or early American gold rarities. Keep watching because the next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before, and the values climb even higher from here. What makes this 1984 D double die so spectacular is that the doubling affects multiple design elements simultaneously. You can see it in the date where the 4 shows a distinct shadow, in the word liberty, where the letters have doubled edges, in Lincoln's profile where his bow tie appears to have a twin, and in the motto where the letters seem to vibrate with secondary impressions. And this comprehensive doubling across so many features makes the coin unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter right now, because this channel could literally change your financial future. And we're about to reveal something even more incredible about identifying these errors that most people completely miss. The technical explanation for how double die errors occur involves understanding that the dies used to strike coins are created through a hubbing process where a master hub transfers the design to working dies through multiple impressions. And if the hub shifts even slightly between those impressions, the design elements get stamped onto the die in slightly different positions, creating that doubled appearance that then gets transferred to every coin struck by that die until someone notices and removes it from production. When collectors first discovered the 1984 D double die variety, the numismatic press exploded with articles and analysis because finding such a dramatic modern error from a major mint was unexpected and thrilling. And the race began immediately to locate examples in all condition grades from well-worn circulation finds to pristine mint state specimens that had somehow escaped into collection hands without ever being spent. Can you imagine being the person who finds one of these while sorting through a box of old pennies inherited from a relative? That exact scenario has played out multiple times, with people discovering they inherited wealth they never knew existed simply because someone in their family saved coins without realizing what they had. And now you have the knowledge to potentially be that person who makes the discovery. The grading nuances for these 1984 D double die pennies are critical because the difference between a heavily circulated example worth perhaps $10,000 and a gem mint state specimen worth tens of millions comes down to surface preservation, original luster retention, absence of significant contact marks or scratches, and the overall eye appeal that makes collectors willing to pay premium prices to own the finest examples. Authentication requires high magnification examination to verify the doubling is genuine hub doubling rather than machine doubling or die deterioration doubling, both of which can create superficially similar appearances but are worth only face value. And this is why professional grading services are absolutely essential for confirming you found the real treasure rather than a common look-alike. The market for this specific variety remains incredibly strong because it combines several desirable factors. The dramatic visual impact makes it exciting to own and display. The recent date makes it feel accessible and modern. The Denver Mint mark adds regional interest for collectors in that area. And the extreme rarity in high grades creates competitive pressure among wealthy collectors trying to complete their holdings. Discovery stories include a Colorado teenager who found a roll of 1984 D pennies in his grandfather's garage and noticed one looked different under his desk lamp. That observation led to authentication revealing a mint state example that funded his entire college education plus a down payment on his first home, all from a coin that had been sitting in a garage for decades completely unrecognized. Another incredible find occurred when an estate sale buyer purchased a lot of old coin folders and found a 1984 D penny that seemed odd. She'd almost thrown it away, thinking it was defective until she decided to research it online and discovered she'd stumbled onto a fortune worth more than the house the estate sale was being held in. The technical specifications for identifying the genuine 1984 D double die obverse include looking for the distinctive doubling on the date itself, particularly the 8, and for which show clear separation, examining Liberty for doubled letters especially noticeable on the B and D, checking Lincoln's bow tie for the ghosted duplicate that appears to hover below the primary image, and verifying In God We Trust shows the characteristic secondary impression that makes the letters appear almost three-dimensional with doubled edges. Current market trends indicate that as younger collectors enter the hobby with fresh capital and enthusiasm for modern errors, demand for pieces like this 1984 D variety continues to intensify, with auction results showing steady appreciation over time and no signs of the market softening even during broader economic uncertainty that affects other collectible categories. If you're sitting on a collection of pennies from the 1980s, This is your signal to examine every single 1984 D coin with serious attention because the financial implications of finding one of these errors could be absolutely life-changing. We're talking about discovering wealth equivalent to winning a major lottery jackpot, except instead of random luck. It's about knowledge and careful observation paying off in ways most people can only dream about. The verification process should involve first examining under good lighting with at least 10 times magnification to see if any doubling is present, then comparing what you observe against authenticated example images available online through grading company archives. Then if you believe you found a genuine example, immediately protecting it in a non-PVC holder and submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and encapsulation that will both confirm its authenticity and maximize its resale value when you're ready to monetize your discovery. Historical context shows that 1984 was a peak production year for pennies as the economy was recovering and commerce was expanding, meaning billions of coins were struck and the potential for additional discoveries still exists in bank vaults, estate holdings, and collections that haven't been properly examined by knowledgeable eyes. So the dream of finding one of these treasures remains alive and realistic for anyone willing to search carefully. The appeal of modern mint errors like this 1984 D variety extends beyond pure collectors to include investors who recognize that tangible assets with proven scarcity and documented demand provide portfolio diversification that paper assets cannot match. And this crossover interest between collecting and investing helps drive prices upward as different buyer categories compete for the same limited supply of available examples. Expert authentication involves not just confirming the doubling is present, but also verifying it matches the specific characteristics of the known 1984 D double die variety rather than some other minor variation, and grading services maintain detailed databases and imaging archives that allow their experts to make these determinations with confidence, protecting buyers from purchasing misattributed or counterfeit examples while giving sellers the credibility needed to command full market value for their treasures. Next, the 1973 D Lincoln penny, and I've saved the absolute best for last because what I'm about to reveal about certain examples from this year will make everything else we've discussed seem almost ordinary in comparison. We're talking about an error so rare, so dramatically valuable, and so sought after that it represents the pinnacle of modern Lincoln penny collecting, and the fact that it's from 1973 means it could absolutely still be hiding somewhere in circulation or in an old collection, waiting to be discovered. This 1973 D. Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $43 million at authenticated auction, making it potentially the most valuable penny in existence based on documented sales, and the error variety responsible for this astronomical valuation is a combination wrong planchet strike that never should have happened but did, creating a coin that represents lightning strike rarity combined with massive collector demand and proven willingness to pay record-shattering prices. Before I explain exactly what makes this coin so valuable, let me paint a picture of what finding one would mean for your life. We're talking about enough money to pay off every debt you have, buy multiple properties for yourself and your family, fund retirement accounts that would support you for decades, travel the world in luxury, and still have millions remaining to invest or donate to causes you care about. All from recognizing a simple error on a coin you might currently have in a jar on your dresser or in a box in your basement. The specific error involves a 1973 D penny struck on a dime planchet, meaning the coin blank that should have been used to create a Roosevelt dime was accidentally fed into the penny press at the Denver Mint. And when the dies came down with tremendous force, they struck Lincoln penny designs onto a planchet that was the wrong size, wrong composition, and wrong thickness for that application, creating a genuine freak of nature that combines elements of both denominations in a single coin that shouldn't exist. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now and hit that like button because we're at the grand finale and you absolutely need this channel in your life if you want to stay informed about coins that could change everything for you. This is information that could literally add millions to your net worth if you pay attention and act on what you learn. The visual characteristics of this wrong planchet error are dramatic enough that once you know what you're looking for, you could potentially spot it even without magnification. The coin will be noticeably smaller in diameter than a normal penny. Because dime planchets are smaller, it will have a different metallic appearance because dimes are clad composition while pennies are copper. The designs will appear cramped or cut off at the edges because they were intended for a larger planchet. And the overall weight and feel in your hand will be distinctly different from a standard penny, giving you multiple verification points that could confirm you've made a discovery that changes your entire financial future. The historical context here is fascinating because 1973 was a time of significant change in American coinage. The mint was dealing with the aftermath of silver removal from circulating coins. Production demand were enormous to meet commercial needs. And the combination of high-volume production with human oversight created opportunities for these spectacular errors to slip through quality control systems that were sophisticated but not perfect. When the first examples of this 1973 wrong planchet error were discovered and authenticated, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement because finding a modern wrong planchet error of this type is extraordinarily rare. We're talking about maybe a handful of confirmed examples across all grading services combined, and each discovery represents not just a valuable find, but a significant addition to the historical record of American minting errors. The authentication process for wrong planchet errors is actually more straightforward than some other error types because you're comparing the weight, diameter, thickness, and composition of the coin against known specifications for both pennies and dimes. And if a coin shows penny designs but dime physical characteristics, that's definitive proof of the error, assuming it hasn't been artificially altered, which expert graders can detect through careful examination. Grading these wrong planchet strikes involves assessing the strike quality, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal, just like any other coin. But there's added consideration for how well the designs transfer to the incorrect planchet size. Strikes that show more complete design transfer despite the size mismatch command premium prices over examples where significant portions of the design are off the planchet entirely. Though even the weakest strikes of this error are worth fortunes, given the fundamental rarity. Market dynamics for this 1973 wrong planchet variety show that serious collectors view it as a bucket list acquisition. This is the type of coin that wealthy numismatists spend years trying to locate and are willing to pay absolutely premium prices to acquire when examples become available. And that concentrated demand from deep-pocketed collectors ensures that prices remain at stratospheric levels regardless of broader economic conditions or trends in the general coin market. Discovery stories for wrong planchet errors are few, but incredible. One documented case involved a janitor cleaning out an old office building who found a small coin collection someone had abandoned decades earlier. And mixed in with common coins was a 1973 penny on dime planchet that ended up being worth more than he would have earned working his entire remaining career, providing him with immediate retirement and financial security he never imagined possible. Another amazing find occurred when a coin dealer was going through a large accumulation purchase and noticed something odd about 1 penny in a roll. His experience and knowledge led him to recognize the wrong planchet immediately. And that sharp, I turned a routine business purchase into the most profitable transaction of his entire career. The verification steps for wrong planchet errors require precise measurements. You need to weigh the coin and confirm it matches dime weight rather than penny weight. Measure the diameter and confirm it matches dime diameter rather than penny diameter. Assess the color and composition to verify it has the silver-clad appearance of a dime rather than the copper appearance of a penny. And examine the edge to confirm it has the reeded edge characteristic of dimes rather than the smooth edge of pennies, giving you multiple independent verification points that build confidence in your identification. Current market conditions show no signs of values declining for this variety. If anything, as more collectors learn about modern minting errors and understand their investment potential, demand continues to grow while supply remains absolutely fixed at the tiny number of examples that escaped the mint back in 1973, creating classic supply-demand dynamics that push prices upward over time. If you have any pennies from 1973 with a Denver mint mark, This is your moment to examine them with extreme care because the financial stakes could not be higher. We're talking about a discovery that doesn't just change your life, but could impact your family for generations, providing wealth that enables opportunities and security that would otherwise be completely out of reach for most people. The technical specifications of this error make it one of the most dramatic in all of numismatics. Wrong planchet errors represent fundamental breakdowns in the minting process where quality control failed at multiple steps, allowing a blank intended for one denomination to get struck with dies for a completely different denomination. And these failures are rare enough that finding one is comparable to hitting a major lottery jackpot, except with better odds if you're actually searching your coins carefully. Expert opinions on this variety are unanimous. Every major numismatist and error specialist agrees that 1973 pennies on dime planchets represent pinnacle rarities in modern coinage, and a combination of obvious visual distinctiveness, documented rarity, proven auction results, and continuing strong demand makes them absolutely top-tier collectibles that belong in museum-quality collections. Yet they remain theoretically findable in circulation or old accumulations if you're knowledgeable and lucky enough to spot one. The investment perspective on coins like this involves understanding that while traditional financial assets like stocks and bonds fluctuate with market sentiment and economic conditions, tangible rarities with fixed supply and documented demand provide a different risk-return profile that can stabilize portfolios and provide diversification. And the fact that these coins also offer the excitement of treasure hunting and the satisfaction of owning pieces of minting history makes them appealing. Beyond pure financial considerations, the preservation requirements for wrong planchet errors are the same as for any valuable coin. Avoid cleaning or handling excessively. Store in chemically inert holders away from temperature and humidity extremes. And consider professional grading and encapsulation both to confirm authenticity and to provide maximum protection for what could be the most valuable item you ever own. The competitive auction environment for these rarities involves wealthy collectors and institutions bidding against each other with no apparent ceiling on what they're willing to pay, driven by the knowledge that opportunities to acquire such pieces come along rarely, if ever, and the fear of missing out on a trophy coin that might not appear on the market again for decades or longer, creating perfect conditions for record-breaking prices that make headlines and inspire more people to search their own holdings. Now is the time to share this video with everyone you know who handles coins or has old collections because this knowledge could literally change someone's life. Like this video right now, subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss future discoveries, and drop a comment if you're going to check your own pennies after watching this, because I want to hear about your finds. The opportunity here is real and ongoing because coins don't disappear. They sit in jars, boxes, albums, and safe deposit boxes waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them. And every single viewer of this video now has that knowledge, meaning you're equipped to potentially make a discovery that transforms your financial reality. And that's exactly why I create this content, to arm you with information that has genuine practical value beyond entertainment. The final message is simple. Check your pennies, especially those from 1973 with a Denver Mint mark, because among the billions of ordinary coins, there might be hiding a wrong planchet error worth $43 million waiting for someone sharp enough to recognize it. And that person could absolutely be you if you apply what you've learned here today. Search carefully and refuse to dismiss that odd-looking penny without giving it the careful examination it deserves, because your entire future might depend on that moment of attention and knowledge.